evening, everybody. This is Clive from Live Pulse in Heywood, and I'm just going to start off with this bit of music. Listen. As we know, the land of hope and glory, England's song. And tonight, I'm going to talk about something that's basically on everybody's minds. It's basically why I'm ashamed of this country and what it stands for now. The UK would be much better off if we had reformed UK government. That's what this is about. So, we'll kick off. What have we got? With the Iran war, keys down with the years, we have a country at a crossroads. Friends, neighbours and fellow citizens, thank you for being here tonight. I stand before you not as a politician, I'm not a politician, or a member of an establishment, not as someone who has ever had a cushy seat in Westminster, but as someone like you has watched this country drift further and further away from what it could be. And I'll be honest, I'm ashamed, bloody ashamed, of what the United Kingdom has become. Don't get me wrong here, I'm not ashamed of the people. I'm not ashamed of what the United Kingdom, I'm not ashamed of our history of the United Kingdom. I'm not ashamed of our communities that graft, that care, that keep or try to keep this country going. I am ashamed of what our leaders have allowed this country to stand for, and you know who I mean. Because the truth couldn't be simpler. Britain could be so much better under Reform UK. And many people across this nation believe that the only way we get there is with a new direction. One that parties like Reform say they can deliver. So tonight, I want to talk about why so many people feel this way. Why so many feel betrayed. Why so many feel ignored. And why so many believe that the old parties have run out of road. So we're going to delve into it. Right. The feeling of national decline, and everybody's feeling that. Let's start with the mood of the country. Walk down any high street, talk to any small business owner, speak to any nurse, any builder, any lorry driver, any parent trying to get their kid into a decent school. Ask them one simple question. Do you feel this country is heading in the right direction? And believe it or not, most will laugh. Some will sigh. A few might get angry, but almost nobody says yes. You see, people at this moment in time, people feel overtaxed, underrepresented, ignored like hell by Westminster, squeezed by the rising costs, and let down by public services. And they're also worried about borders and security, fed up with political correctness and tired of broken bloody promises. And this isn't a fringe feeling. It's mainstream. It's everywhere. From Heywood to Hartlepool, from Bristol to Birmingham, from Glasgow to Grimsby, people feel the country slipping away from them. And they're asking, who is going to stand up for us? Now, why the old parties lost trust? I mean, for decades, Britain has been run by two parties who argue like enemies but govern like twins. Supporters of Reform UK often say Labour abandoned the working class. The Conservatives abandoned the Conservatives. Both abandoned the country. And what do we have to show for it? A tax burden at a 70-year high. NHS waiting lists stretching into millions. A housing crisis that locks out an entire generation. A border system that doesn't control who comes in or who stays. A criminal justice system that leaves victims feeling forgotten. And a political class more interested in managing decline than delivering change. See, people look at Westminster and see a club. They don't see a government, they see a club. Not a parliament. A club where the rules protect the insiders, not the public. And that's why so many people say, enough. We need something different. Now, the appeal of Reform UK. This is from a supporter's perspective, right? Now, let's be clear about this. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to reflect what millions of people across this country are already saying. You see, supporters of Reform UK argue that the party represents straight talking, common sense, low taxes, controlled borders, national sovereignty, putting British people first, cutting waste in government, standing up to political correctness, protecting free speech, backing small businesses, not closing them down, reforming the NHS, and, last but not least, challenging the establishment. Now, whether you agree with every policy or not, you cannot deny this. Reform UK has tapped into a deep frustration that the old parties refuse to acknowledge. You see, people feel unheard. Reform supporters say the party listens. People feel ignored. Reform supporters say the party speaks for them. And people feel betrayed. Reform supporters say the party offers a fresh start. On top of this, we've got the economic argument, because this is where the anger is strongest. See, people are working harder than ever, yet feel poorer than ever. Supporters of reform often argue taxes are too high. Small businesses are suffocating under regulations. The cost of a living crisis was made worse by political mismanagement. Britain needs growth, not more bureaucracy. They say the country needs a simpler tax system, low income tax, low corporation tax, incentives for investment, a crackdown on wasteful spending, a smaller, more efficient state, a pro-growth agenda that rewards work. Now, whether you agree or disagree, these are the conversations people want to have. Conversations the old parties seem terrified of. Let's take border security and national identity. That's another issue that supporters of Reform UK raise again and again, immigration and border control. Not because they hate people, not because they fear outsiders, but because they believe a country should control who enters it. They argue the asylum system is broken, Illegal crossings undermine the rule of law. Legal migration is way too high. Public services are stretched because of this. Communities feel overwhelmed. Successive governments have failed to act. They say, look, a country without borders is not a country. Compassion must be balanced with control. Immigration should be managed in the national interest, and the public should have a say in numbers. Now, these are not fringe views. These are mainstream concerns. You just have to read the papers, look at all the reports. This is what people are talking about. And then on top of that, you've got, with everything, you've got public services and the NHS. Yeah, all right, let's talk about the NHS. People love the NHS. They rely on it. They respect the staff, but they also know it's struggling. Supporters of Reform UK argue the NHS needs structural reform from the ground up over, not endless cash injections. Bureaucracy is choking frontline care. Management layers have ballooned. I mean, good God, you've got your directors, you've got your higher management, your middle management, your lower management, then you've got your admin staff. You know, in the NHS, there are actually more pen pushers than there are doctors and nurses. Innovation's too slow. Waiting lists are definitely unacceptable. And staff morale, well, forget it. I've worked in the NHS. It's collapsing. It is. They all say the same thing. Put patients first. Cut waste. Modernise the system. Use technology better. Reduce management bloat. Empower frontline workers. Again, whether you agree or not, these are real conversations people want to have. So you can inject as many billions as you like into the NHS. It will not make one bit of difference. You'll still have more and more people waiting to get in there, waiting to have operations. Your waiting lists are going to be billions by 2030. The other thing that people ask me a lot about is justice, crime, and community safety. You see, people in Heywood and roundabouts, they need to feel safe. And the way things are happening at the moment in this country, you are not safe walking down the road. You don't know who's out there. You don't know who's got a knife. You don't know who's got a gun. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. And the police don't know. People want to feel safe. They want the streets back. They want consequence for crime. You see, supporters of reform argue that the way it is at the moment, the justice system is too bloody soft. Police, well, they're overstretched. Victims, ignored. Communities feel abandoned. Antisocial behaviour is out of control. Well, of course it is, because the police turn a blind eye. Courts are backlogged. Prisons are full but ineffective. Well, that's a moot point, because the way Labour's going, they're letting, I mean, last year there was about 50,000 criminals set free just to bring the numbers down in prisons. So instead of doing their full time for rape, murder, burglary, or whatever it is, oh no, stick them outside, you're alright. Everybody's calling for more police. Tougher sentencing. But there again, tougher sentencing, we haven't got room in prisons. So that scripts that one out straight away. Faster courts. Well, yeah, because you've got rape cases like 2 and 3 years down the line waiting to be heard. Zero tolerance for violent crime. Well, it's always been zero tolerance for violent crime. Now, the respect for victims, that's something else. You think about this, especially the rape gang in Rochdale and Heywood and that. I mean, is there any respect for those young girls? I don't think there is. A justice system that protects the public. You see, these are not extreme demands. They're basic expectations, what people want. And then, of course, we get, on the top tier, democracy and accountability. Right. One of the biggest frustrations in Britain today is the feeling that democracy isn't working. Right? Our supporters in reform argue that the voting system is outdated. First past the post. Parliament is unrepresentative. It is at the moment. The House of Lords is undemocratic. Well, I think we should just get rid of the House of Lords altogether. Civil service culture resists change. Public institutions lack accountability. But the establishment protects itself. Right? Now, I think power should return to the people. Politicians should be made accountable. Institutions should serve the public, not themselves. And democracy should definitely be modernised. I mean, whether you agree or disagree, these are legitimate debates that we should be having. You see, the other thing is that there's a call for national renewal. So where does that leave us? It leaves us at a crossroads. One path is the same old story. High taxes, low growth, broken services, weak borders, political correctness, managed decline, leaders who don't listen. But the other path, Reform UK, is a chance to reset the country for low taxes, controlled borders, efficient public services, national pride, economic growth, and a government that puts Britain first. This is why so many people are turning to new political movements, not because they're extreme, not because they're angry for the sake of it, but because they believe Britain deserves better. Now, I want to finish with this. Right? This is a country worth fighting for. It always has been. And I'm just going to, something I penned down. I'm just going to read this out. Right? People say they're ashamed of what Britain has become, but they're not ashamed of Britain itself. They're ashamed of the leadership. They're ashamed of the excuses. They're ashamed of the decline. But they still believe in this country. They still believe in its people. And they still believe in its potential. And that belief, that spark, is powerful. Supporters of Reform UK argue that the country needs a new direction, a new voice, a new courage to break from the past. Whether you agree with them or not, one thing is clear. Britain is definitely ready for change. Real change. Bold change. Not cosmetic, not symbolic. Actual, meaningful national renewal. And that starts with people like yourselves. People who care. People who question. People who refuse to accept the status quo. Folks, this country is worth fighting for. Its future is worth fighting for our kids and our grandkids. And the conversation about that future starts now. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.